And it's like this. Here's what I've learned after, I was in Congress I was 6 years, and I was out 6 years, and I came back for 6 years. Would have happily continued on. Well, this is what I think I've learned. Leadership aimed at consensus plus a crisis equals change. So you gotta have those elements. You have leadership aimed at consensus, and you have a crisis, a catalyzing event, and then you can get change. We've got crisis. We've got plenty of crisis in the economy, in the case of the environment, we've got real issues. And then, so we've got plenty of that. The question is whether we have leadership aimed at consensus. And so that's what I think is worth discussing here, is how do you get that kind of consensus? Now that, I will tell you that, now that cap and trade is dead, and I think we do have a death certificate on it. Did everybody agree with that? I mean, it's got a death certificate, right? It's finished. Before that, there probably it would be of the notion of this one.
I hope not.
That's a little hard.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. It translates. Now that we're certain that a death certificate has been issued, maybe we won't drive off anybody from the coalition if we just make it clear what was wrong with it. In my view, the problem with cap and trade, and I voted against it, was it is a tax increase. It decimates American manufacturing with no positive effect on the environment, because you simply move productive capacity to China and India, and then what have you done? It's hopelessly complicated. I found that out in Bluffton, South Carolina, when I sat down with my 87-year-old dad and my 84-year-old mom, and they were asking about cap and trade. And about 30 seconds into the explanation, they were beginning to doze off. They were thinking, Bob, that won't work. That's what they said to me. I said, that won't work. So if you can't explain it, they're probably not going to work. Now, of course, I got to acknowledge quickly, if you go around talking about a revenue-neutral carbon tax, as I said in the other room, carbon hives, tax, anaphylactic shock, in the Republican base, that's hard to get through. So I'd be very interested in your thoughts about how we, you know some Republicans, right? You are a Republican. Look, there's Ray. He's a Republican. He came over here and gave me something about Republicans for environmental protection. Reminds me one time being at Duke with Nan Cohan. Anybody here from Wesleyan? Nan Cohan used to be here at Wesleyan, right? And then she went to be the president of Duke University. And I was there. I'm an alum of Duke, and as I was back there for an event. And so we were at Nan's house, the house provided by Duke University for Nan Cohan, the president, and her husband, who taught it, I guess still teaches at Harvard. And so they're these big, well-heeled donors. And so I was very fish out of water in that context. But anyway, so I said, I was talking to one of them, and she was found out as a member of Congress, and she said, Republican or Democrat? And I said, Republican. She said, shh, me too. And I said it to another one, and another person asked me, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a member of Congress. Republican or Democrat? I said, Republican. He said, does Nan know that? I'm thinking, this is the oddest thing in the world. These people are providing the house that Nan is living in, and they're sort of secretly Republicans. And so I've said, no, it's all right. We can be Republicans here. It's okay. At Duke University, we can be Republicans, even though it doesn't look like it, that you can be there. So maybe there are other Republicans here who can tell us how it is that we can develop this leadership aimed at consensus, because the easiest thing to do, Bill was kind to go to both of those conferences in Washington. But the sad thing about that, it's a conservative. The sad thing to me about that CPAC conference that I think he's talking, the one you're speaking of, is it was intentional to destroy this little bit of Camelot. Now, I just don't think that's a high enough objective for us as conservatives to try to destroy this brilliant, articulate, handsome president we've got. He is brilliant, articulate, and handsome. He's just wrong on most things. But it doesn't mean we got to hate him, you know. And so, but I got in trouble on this, and I realize I'm out of step. But you'll help me figure out how we can develop other people so we can get in step. One story, and then we'll open to questions. I was at this little gathering. We had this thing called Let's Talk. It was a monthly lunch and breakfast thing. Sometimes it was Let's Holler. Like after I committed a couple of heresies, like voting against troop surge, voting against Joe Wilson's outburst, and voting for TARP, when George Bush said we're going to have a depression otherwise. And then really when I talked about carbon taxes. So sometimes it's Let's Holler. On this occasion it's Let's Talk. So about 20 or 25 people are there. It's a breakfast. This guy stands up and he says, President Obama is so unpatriotic. He won't even put his hand over his heart when the pledge is recited or the national anthem is played. And so I'm standing there, I'm thinking, I know what I'm supposed to say. What do you expect from a socialist? Or what do you expect from somebody who wasn't even born in America? And I'm thinking, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I won't do it. I can't do it. So I just said, that's just not true. I said, I've been with the president. I've seen him put his hand over his heart. It's just not true. And I said, he is a patriotic American who loves his country, loves his wife, loves his kids, and he wants to do the best. Now, I disagree with him on many things. Afterwards, a Republican operative came up to me and said, don't give him that he's a patriotic American. How are you going to govern a country when you have to divide into Shia versus Sunni and behead the man? We got to figure that somehow we got to get to a place of saying leadership aimed at consensus. In other words, I don't have to agree with everything about Barack Obama, but I should not demonize him, because if I demonize him, we cannot have leadership aimed at consensus. We cannot be coming together. We got the crisis. Can we get the change? It starts with that leadership aimed at consensus. Tell me how to get it. Tell Bill how to get it.